HR solution. So I'm going to jump right into my presentation. Here goes. So on the agenda today is firstly just a quick overview of the solution, and then a shallow dive into each of the projects. All right, so you'll see the overview is empty, and I'm going to explain that now. So if you look at the solution, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great stuff. So in the beginning, in our SignifyHR solution, we only had one project, and that was projects 2. So projects 2, because we didn't know what to name projects, we named it projects 2. It's almost like table 1. And that was the project that we started with. Years later, we renamed the project to app, and it took quite some work to rename the URLs as well. So yes, Rian.
That's why when I create a new object in the project, the namespace starts with project 2 by default, a new class or anything.
Yeah, that's right. That's probably a legacy setting, as that was the namespace for any new namespaces inside Signify.
Yes, any class you create always starts with project 2 dot area or dot
Yes.
app dot area stuff.
Yes, you're right. So projects 2 was our first namespace. All right, and over time, we created other projects. Projects 2 became bigger, and we needed to logically split some of the components into other projects as well, and new development as well. So although we only started out with projects 2, we created other projects as well. And for those projects to be able to communicate to each other, obviously there had to be shared projects between them as well. So the data, the core, and the helpers are 3 good examples of projects that are shared between projects. But I'll explain that now as we go through each of the projects. All right, so that is just a quick overview. So not a formal overview, just a quick word on the history and the evolution of the project or the solution. All right, let's take a shallow dive into each of the projects. So the first project we have is the app. The app is located in web app in a solution. So let me open File Explorer here. So this is the solution, the repository Signify V8 and web. So directly, just a quick word on web. So but under web, except for app, is the old classic ASP functionality, or what is left of the classic ASP functionality, mostly the learner records. So the app folder here is actually, this is where the app project is located, which you've all worked on. So you're very familiar of where it's located. This is where most of the code resides. Later on, when we split the projects, obviously some of the code still remained in app. So most of the code is still in the app project, but these days, if development is done, that is where the front end is situated. The helpers or data layer is located in the other project for any new development. We first called it projects 2. There's a rewrite rule in the web.config that redirects project 2 to app. So this was part of the work done to be backwards compatible with current URLs that our clients used. So directly in the web, remember that is the parent virtual directory of the application. There is a rewrite rule. Sorry, I must just go back one level. The web.config. There's a redirect rule here that redirects traffic from projects 2 to app. Okay, so some of our clients still used and had those links hard-coded, so we had to have a way to get around that. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So inside of the app project is a combination of web forms, MVC, and Vue.js. Gert has already worked on Vue.js, ne Gert?
Yes.
And it's easy to understand.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, if you know it, then it's easier, but Vue.js has a bit of a learning curve.
Yes.
Inside the app, so just remember, this is just a shadow dive into the most important aspects of the app project. So we have master pages and we have Signify base.cs. Who has seen Signify base.cs?
I think I have seen it, but I
Okay.
can't remember what's in there.
So the web forms inherit from Signify base. Just a quick example on that. I also pasted that in the example. So you all know what you use a public partial class for. So
Yeah.
you use that to extend. Normally, this was a web page, so it inherited from web page or web form or page. But now we inherit it from Signify base, so that we extend the functionality within a page. So this is Signify base. So all the methods inside here basically come down to, this is where the sessions translation and view state is handled, so that they are handled uniformly across the application. For this instance, the web forms. So just think about adding all of this code, the translation code, the page pre-init. So this is where the session expires, and you're redirected to the session expired page. So just imagine overriding the pre-init of all of the web forms that you develop and remembering to develop or to override them. I can guarantee you will forget that some of the page pre-inits need to be overridden, and then the session won't expire on some of the pages in the system. All right, does it make sense? Any questions on the app?
I'm fine, thank you.
Just have a quick look at the app. So you'll see the web forms. Most of them for the modules are situated underneath human resources. So human resource, and then these are the modules in the system. Okay, so for the web MVC, the code is situated under areas. So under the areas, you have the modules again. So as you can see, we've done a lot of development since MVC was started when in 2013. Okay. There are some system framework functionalities as well that are on the menus, notifications, framework, help, that are not underneath a specific module, but are framework modules. framework functionality. And then in your global.asix, let me quickly open that one up. So who of you have worked on the global.asix? Do you know what the global ASIX is used for? Right, so
Not
that,
sure.
It's almost like the old startup file. It's when the application is initialized, it's doing some basic initialization tasks and stuff.
yeah. So this is where you control the system-wide events, the application events, and also the session events. So at application start, so this executes only once when the application starts. Except if you stop IIS and start IIS again, then this code will run again. But other than that, this code will only run once. Application begin and end request. When an application when this application receives a request, yeah, so that's the global.asix is system-wide or session-wide, application-wide or session-wide events. So if you can add an event here called session start as well. That will initialize when the a user's session start. So the application is system-wide for all of the users. Okay, so any events that you want that need to execute before anyone uses the application need to be here on application start as an example. All right, that is the app project. So we have the Signify control library, and that is a library extending frequently used web controls, for example, the hidden field. So you'll see in a lot of instances in the project, there's a control called Signify, :Signify hidden field. So that is just the ASP hidden field being overridden and extended to add extra functionality so that we handle hidden fields the same. Or we ensure that paging is handled uniformly. There's a Signify repeater. So there's an example here of a Signify repeater that is used. And the extension property that is not present on the ASP repeater is, for instance, the allow paging, whether you need the repeater to page. That can be controlled here. A no results found message. For instance, if there is no results in your data set, what is the message that is displayed? So that is handled in the Signify control library. Now let's take one of the controls. There's a breadcrumb trail. Signify hidden field. You see that it inherits from hidden field. So it extends in hidden field. There's a override property enable view state visible, which is by default false. And so all of the methods that we sometimes use on a hidden field is overridden here with proper defaults. So the default for a hidden field, for an ASP hidden field is, for instance, visible true. You don't always need to render a hidden field on a page, but that is what is done when you use an ASP hidden field. It's part of your markup. So you only need to render it if it needs to be used in the client script, the JavaScript on the page. Then you need it to be visible in a document object model. So we default it to visible false, so it's not rendered. It's only rendered as part of the markup if you explicitly set it to be rendered as part of the markup. All right, that is Signify control library. Any questions there?
No.
Not at this stage. Okay, then we move on to SignifyHR.API. So this is our integration API. It's used for interfacing SignifyHR with the external world, not Word. We started this integration API when the mobile development was started with an external third party. So a company in India develops our mobile application, 9 Series develops a mobile application, and they need to interact with our data. So they use the integration API. So methods were exposed to select and update pathways initially. It's now used for other purposes as well. For instance, the employee import is now done via the integration API, or extracting any data from the system when interfacing with the API tools, for instance, Power BI. So Smollen uses Power BI. They paste in the endpoints for our API. They set the authorization and then they execute those tasks daily to extract talent management data and performance management data from the system. All right, if we have a quick look at the API, again, there are the areas, the different modules. So it is self-contained. So it has helpers and filters all contained inside this API. It also has a Swagger front end. I don't know if I showed Harvey the Swagger front end of the API. Have you seen it, Rian?
Yes, Theuns. I've seen it.
Okay. Let me just open here, open the areas. So let's go to the pathways. So the mobile learning application interfaces for the pathways with the learning portal controller. Let me just see the other controller. Yeah. The learning portal. Obviously the achievements as well. So on the mobile application, you have your achievements and your training requirements, which is your PDP. Yeah, it also has an import controller. I haven't actually seen this recently. Oh, this is the employee import. Import, am I correct? Consolidated learner record import is also done via the API. So not just the employees, but also learner records can be imported from outside into the SignifyHR system. So there is a maintenance mode filter as well. So you'll remember if we do an upgrade, Hendra normally puts the system in maintenance mode. Have you seen the maintenance mode, Rian or Harvey, on the front end?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's say with the grow like upgrade we did recently. Growth life,
Growth link.
growth thing. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So this is where we tell the app user as well that we are in maintenance mode. But they can also log in from their mobile application. So during an upgrade, we must not make the functionality available, the pathways and so on, because we restore the database. So we place the system in maintenance mode. The mobile app must see that as well.
Yeah, I've never seen the maintenance mode on the mobile app. So
Yeah.
I didn't know that. This is something new for me.
Yeah, there was a issue recently on the mobile app, and it was on clients on Windsor. So on Windsor, we only have one integration API, and we have different clients on different versions of our software. So some of the clients do not have some of the API fields yet. So there was an issue for clients that haven't been upgraded to the latest version. There was a field missing the maintenance mode text
Okay.
that needed to be added to the clients. So while the testers were testing, they were in maintenance mode and they tested the application. So outside of maintenance mode, it worked. But while maintenance mode was on, it didn't work because that field did not exist yet.
Yes. Okay.
All right, that is the SignifyHR API. I'm quickly going to speak about the rest of the applications. We're seeing the clicker application in action
I did a long time ago.
a long
With
time
an
ago.
eye impress thing that we had to, where we played little game, movie quiz or something.
I remember that. I remember that. So the clickers is actually great functionality that we have that clients can use. And what it basically is you do an online assessment. So a facilitator shows the clicker assessment. So they log into our system, into SignifyHR, and open the assessment. And then each of the participants in the room has a clicker, which is basically an electronic device, can have 6 or 9 buttons. Okay, A, B, C, D, F, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the facilitator starts a session, everybody registers. So let's say there's 10 people, and let's say Erika's the facilitator, and it's Harvey's turn to register, then Harvey clicks his clicker and he registers on his user. After everyone is registered, the survey or the assessment is started, and then there's a range of questions which can be multiple choice. Can be single choice. In other words, there's a question, there's one correct answer. So while the question displays, you click on your clicker. So let's say there's a question that say, what is the best mark? And there's options 1 to 9, and you click on 8. It registers Harvey then against your name on the system that you answered 8. So the goal of that is for computer illiterate learners to be able to do assessments, or less computer literate. So you only need to select something and press the remote button. So the clicker has 2 applications. So the facilitator has a dongle plugged into their PC, and that dongle communicates with the browser on their PC. So the console application and the server work together. The server is a WebSocket server. So there's a WebSocket server created on the facilitator's PC, which then sends the results through to the browser. And by doing that, saves the result on the system. So the console application and the server work together with the hardware. So the hardware is specifically a dongle plugged into the user's PC that with infrared communication communicates with the clickers in the audience. So the dongle receives the signals. The WebSocket server transfers those signals to the web application. And so your answers are registered. Sounds pretty complex, right? All right, any questions on the clicker? Are we good to go?
Yes.
Harvey, Rian? You're still...
Yes,
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, great. We have the SignifyHR.core project. Gert, I'm just going to put this out there for you because you have been working on a solution for a while. What sort of functions or code would you add to the is stored in a core project, and what functionality would you add there?
Well, it's basically like a separate application. It's basically stuff that you put in there that you want to use in all the other projects. So it's basically becomes less the projects doesn't become dependent on each other. They just have to reference the core, all of them. So you put in all your core functionality and basically also like the database, the entity framework stuff in there as well.
Yes, the SignifyHR data.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, well, I see that the data is on its own project there.
Yes,
So,
that's
yeah.
right. Yeah, so let's look at an example. Portal menu items. So menu items are used between modules. I handled here the session control, Signify request is also handled here. I think if I'm not mistaken, this is the form request and URL query string request. Yeah, is centralized here. There's also a PowerShell helper, which I think could have been part of the helper project, but it's fine. Yeah. So it's core functionality used between the modules, between the projects, so that you don't have to repeat the functionality in each of the projects. So just to reuse core functionality. All right, does it make sense? Vivian?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
The SignifyHR data is exactly what it says. It's actually the data layer. So you'll see all the modules. There are still modules that are part of the app, but any new models that are created are placed within the SignifyHR data model. So it's for two reasons. The one is to not bulk or make your model too big, like we have in the app. So the EDMX in the app project became very big at one stage. So inside SignifyHR data, we now added EDMX is here. Let me just see if I'm telling a lie. I just want to find the EDMX. Is the EDMX in here, Gert? Here it is. Now, as you can see, these are the modules for the data tables added inside SignifyHR data. And it's quite nice to have the same model or related entities are grouped together as the same color. But it is quite bulky, so what we can do in future is split these modules into different EDMXs as well.
Yeah, I think there is a diagram where it's split up between the modules. But yeah, Still only on one EDMX file, yes.
Yes. All right, so this is the data layer.
Sorry, Theuns.
Yes.
What would be the reason to further split up the EDMX file?
The reason would be not to make the EDMX file too bulky, because any changes, when you refresh your EDMX, you don't want to refresh everything necessarily. When you add a new field, for instance, it should be easier than it currently is. So currently you would change the large EDMX, which can cause issues from time to time. So you want
Okay.
smaller modules of smaller EDMXs. It's just
Yeah.
easier for development. Nee, Gert?
I've seen when you add like a new column to a table, basically, I've seen now that there is a lot of tables that is out of sync with the database, and then brings all kinds of stuff in. Because most people nowadays, they basically just edit the EDMX file. They don't use the model browser to update the database or the EDMX. So, but yeah, if it's like all in one EDMX file, it's also really slow to update it, and it takes a while.
Okay. Okay, but the correct way to do that would be just maybe enlighten me. Is making the change in the database and then updating the model, not adding a table or column directly to the EDMX itself. No.
Yeah, well, I think I'm not sure how we're going to handle it, but I think most people, they edit the EDMX file just directly to add their extra column or whatever they want to change. Because if you update it now, I've seen on a few occurrences that it then brings all kinds of stuff back that nobody updated. Or it's if you change something on the database, on a table, there is a lot of columns that is being added, but they never update the EDMX. So sometimes you get a surprise on the stuff that changed actually.
Okay. Okay. But theoretically it should be they should be kept in sync, because
Yes,
otherwise it
yes,
it
they
can cause a
should
lot of
actually.
problems.
No, definitely it needs to be kept in sync, the tables and the model.
Okay. Okay, cool.
All right, that's a SignifyHR data project. I don't have specific notes about the other projects. I'm just going to speak through them. SignifyHR.helpers is a project where you create helpers that are also shared between the projects. Good examples are cookie helpers and date helpers. So we want to handle dates in the same fashion between projects. We don't want everybody to convert, especially with dates. For those of you who've developed on projects, dates can be an issue. So you want to have a helper that can help you with dates, so you don't have to figure everything out from scratch. So it's reusable helper. It's exception helper, file helper, a function helper, generate token utilities. As you can see, there are quite a few helpers here. SVG with images. All right, that is the helper project. All right, does it make sense? Any questions on the helper? What the purpose of a helper is?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, great. The leaf module was rewritten, I think 3 times. Eventually, when we rewrote it for the 3rd time, we decided to create its own project or projects. This was also to experiment with splitting new modules out to their own separate projects and not have everything inside the app project. So this was the purpose of the leave project. SignifyHR.leave. As you can see here, that's the models, the view models. So everything needed to run the leave module, except for the front end. For those of you who've worked on leave, you know that is quite a big module. So this just splits everything out and also has, I'm just looking for it, here's the leave data context. Has its own EDMX, which as you can see is also quite big. All right, that is before we started developing the microservices. So the idea was to split all the different modules out to run on their own, except for the front end. So the app project these days becomes our web MVC or front end project or service. So all the front ends are still created there, but everything else are created obviously in the case of leave in the leave project or the SignifyHR.data or SignifyHR.core projects. The SignifyHR.leave.engine is a separate project for the leave engine, as the leave engine is something that needs to run on its own. There were quite a few changes at one stage. These days, the leave engine is quite stable, but all of the business logic for the leave engine is packed into the leave.engine project. You'll see there are different calculators here as well. Cycle calculator, carryover calculator, balance deduction calculator, a leave day calculator. So anything related to the engine resides in the SignifyHR.leave.engine. Then we have the SignifyHR.leave.engine.service, which is a Windows service that runs that is daily executed to process leave on a daily basis. So if you know leave, then you'll know you have to process leave every day. So for instance, if you've booked leave for December, from the 1st of December, on the morning of the 1st of December, that leave day will be processed and finally deducted from your balance. Okay, so there is a leave engine that runs once a day and leave is processed via the leave service. Okay, that makes sense. It's sort of a scheduled task that runs daily to process leave. And then the leave engine unit test is a project as leave has many rules in the engine. You need to know when you change one rule that it doesn't affect another. So that is what the unit test project is for. So anytime a rule is changed, it can be tested to ensure that it doesn't adversely affect a rule that had already existed before. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Theuns, if I can just quickly ask a question.
Yes.
I don't know if it's relevant to this discussion, but why is the leave module such a huge thing on its own?
There are many moving parts in leave halving. So it sounds simple on paper. So there are companies who do leave and leave requests on paper. But there are many moving parts and rules and variables in leave. For instance, when a leave cycle rolls over or when you start accruing differs from company to company. So for all of those situations, we've created settings. So if you accrue daily or do you accrue monthly? Is one such example. So even though leave on paper is simple, there is quite a lot of rules and setup on leave that is done for that reason. And actually, for any new module on version 8, obviously until we started to develop version 9, would have been projects on their own, actually irrespective of the size.
Okay, so leave was just the first one when you started with that
It
split.
was the first, yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So if we split pathways or learning portal, you would have had a project for learning portal or PDP or performance management as well.
Yes, yes. Okay,
Just
thanks.
separation of concerns.
Okay.
So changes on the one project doesn't affect necessarily the other project, except if the other project references that project. So SignifyHR data is referenced in a few of these projects. So yeah, separation of concerns. SignifyHR, the third party, is where we interface with third parties. We have two such interfaces, and they are PaySpace and Zoom Connect. PaySpace is an interface we created. We use PaySpace at Signify for our own payroll. So we integrated our system with them regarding the employee information. Don't know if you've seen the PaySpace functionality in Manage Employees.
I did not see it.
Yeah, I've not seen it either.
Let's see if I can just quickly show it here on, on master. I'm going to take a chance quickly and assume it is switched on. Okay. Let's go to Manage Employees. It's over here. I think it needs to be switched on. You just look under the settings. Sorry, that is own configuration, PaySpace configuration. PaySpace integration is enabled. I'll just remember where it is. So, but the crux of the PaySpace integration is that when you update an employee's details in Manage Employees, it also updates the employee information on PaySpace. Oh, sorry, there's the employee list. That's what I wanted to see, actually. I'll just quickly come back to it. The other third-party integration we have is with Zoom Connect, which we use for sending SMSs from the system. Just while this page is loading. So we have Signify type extensions. So who knows what the Signify type extensions are used for?
I don't know.
Okay, so type extensions are just used to simplify the conversion of types. So for instance, for conversions that do not exist out of the box in C#, so we've created our own conversions. Those of you who've worked with conversion of types have seen that when you convert something incorrectly, or it's not possible for you to convert something to a different type, there's a runtime error, right?
Yeah.
So the same way that we use Signify control library to extend controls, we use Signify type extensions to extend types and to add conversions for them. And also when they fail, it doesn't cause the system necessarily to fail. Let's take a quick example. There's a to-date, I think it's to.date time. Let me make one of these. I think to-date time or to Boolean. The Signify type extensions. It's to Boolean. Let me just quickly see. This is an extension that is used of Signify type extensions. For instance, a to Boolean. When you convert a row to Boolean, it fails, it will cause a runtime error, so we've overridden it. And when you use it, it doesn't cause an error, and so it just makes the conversion just a little bit smarter. And I know there's also to date time format. Just let me quickly search for one of those. Which returns a string. So, and you can choose to date time format. And you can choose the format. And there is one where you can choose the format as well. So if you want a data to be converted to text and display in a certain format, and also takes into account the current culture, then you use the Signify type extension for that. I just can't see a very good example currently. Time format. Date formatting. Dot. And that's a good example now of that. Okay. Let's quickly see if we can go to the space example that I wanted to show. We haven't added any new types or changed Signify type extensions recently. So it has been running stable for a long time. The unit test project tests that are done on the app application. Okay, so there are quite a few tests, including Pathway test here already. The Web API and Web API.test application. So the Web API was our first shot at APIs at Signify, and that is currently used for the workplace assessment app. Who has worked with the workplace assessment app will know what it is used for.
I did work a bit on it.
Yeah. Gert also helped to maintain the development. Also helps currently to maintain the development on the workplace assessment apps. It's an Android app, right, Gert? Or Xamarin, sorry.
It's Xamarin. On the Web API, there is also other functionality there. Like I know Bertie, it usually tests the due date notifications. There is something that you can send out notifications and stuff.
Yes.
So, but I don't actually know, is that like an outside client that uses this interface, or how does that get used, like for the due date notifications?
Yeah, so
Or is
there's
it
no
our
client.
is it our own system that uses the the web API, or I'm not sure.
Those methods were exposed and can be used by outside clients. We don't currently have clients using the due date planner, Gert.
Oh, okay.
But that's typically where you would access them. So they were part of our first version of our API. So SignifyHR.api is actually the second version of our API.
Yeah. So I
Um,
guess sometime we will, at some time there will be a combination that web API needs to get integrated with the integration API in the
yes, you're right.
future.
You're right.
Because I see there's also leave stuff also there still.
Yeah, there is. Let me just quickly check this one.
But it's
So
maybe
this,
old stuff. I'm not sure.
yeah, so this leave API or leave integration, I think, is currently used to process leave daily. So
Oh, it's used by the service, maybe.
yeah,
Okay.
to process leave. And Web API.test is the unit test application for the Web API. Yeah, so what I wanted to show here is this is the employee list of the data on PaySpace. So if we update this employee on Signify, that employee is updated on PaySpace as well. So this is the PaySpace employee list, so to say. Does that make sense?
So when you
Yes.
update the details on manage
Yeah,
employees, it will basically call a PaySpace API to update
yes.
the details.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, which is quite nifty, I think.
Yeah, it is. I think this was one of the first things that Jock developed when
Yes,
he
you're right.
came to Signify.
Yes, you're 100% right. Good memory. All right. So that is it for the project and the solution. Harvey and Rian, are there any questions on the solution and the project inside the solution?
Yes, actually. Are the unit tests, are they still being used? Sorry, I've seen them around, but I've never heard about anyone using them.
Yeah, they are used every time you build a project.
Is it?
So
Oh,
every
is it?
time-
It's not something we actively use, as in we go code in that, or what's? Sorry, yeah, I'm not very familiar with it, or familiar
Yeah,
with it at all.
not currently, as there's not many new functionalities added to version 8 currently. So it is not actively used now. So where and if necessary, we add a unit test for new development done on version 8. So, but no, not actively at this point.
Is it? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we not we don't add basically unit tests on version 8 anymore. I don't think so, but on version 9 the unit tests are added for almost all new development.
Yes. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. Is there any functionality that you can think about, Rian, that you've added recently that needs a unit test?
No, not specifically. Not extra functionality. Just dashboards, reports, CSP changes. Nothing. I would say that. Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, Signify.
That. Yes. Actually, yes. It's-
Yeah. So we can speak about that, Rian, to add unit test for Signify. I don't think we'll do it as part of the current development, but it must definitely be added if it's going to be beneficial to test the integration during a build.
Okay. No, that sounds good.
Yeah. Right, Harvey, any questions from your side?
Yeah, just one small one. As a new
Yes.
developer, I'm assuming the most important projects to familiarize yourself with to prevent duplication development is the core project and the helper project
And the data.
and the data.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, because like when we need to add stuff or fix stuff, and instead of writing stuff that's already on the system, you can just go look if there's already a solution in place.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, so for functionalities that you use to do conversions or always go and look if there's not existing functionality that can help you with that. If you want to upload a file or general functionality like that, don't redevelop the wheel.
Yeah.
The wheel
And
probably exists, it's just maybe not visible in plain sight.
yeah, okay. And then when we add new helper clauses, do we
Mm.
add them in the helper project, or do we only add them there if they are going to be relevant to all modules? Otherwise, if it's very module specific, I'm assuming we add it to the module itself.
Yeah, you'll see the module of the helper project also has, let me just go to the module of the helper project. Learning. So there is, for instance, there is functionality that is specific to pathways, but it can also be added here. There's a
You have a
A paste-
pathway helpers.
yeah, you
clause.
have SCORM helper, you have pace. So there are module specific functionality, helper functionality that you can come and add here as well.
Okay, okay, cool.
It's for the SMS engine here as well. What's on the framework? Security, registering, recapture. Yeah, so module helpers you can also add here. All right. I think that's it for today. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Theuns.
Thanks, Theuns.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Thanks,
Okay,
guys.
bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.